Want to learn the secret to creating a six-figure real estate investing business? That's what we're talking about today on the Sub2Deals Show. Hey, Sub2ers, welcome to this episode of the Sub2Deals Show, where we talk about all things subject to. Now, occasionally, we will talk about other real estate investing topics, but it's always something to help you with your real estate investing business. If you're listening to our podcast on Apple or Google or any of the other podcast mediums that we're on out there, we'd like to invite you to check us out at our YouTube channel. You can check out our YouTube channel at sub2tv.com. You can watch our podcast there, see our pretty faces, and watch all the other videos that we put out each and every week to help you with your real estate investing business. And if you're ready to learn more about creative real estate, whether it's courses, training, or coaching, check us out at sub2university.com. We've got about everything you need over there to get started. For all price ranges, we've got some super affordable stuff over there. And in fact, if you're wanting to learn more about creative finance and you're on a tight budget, join us at $7coaching.com. I will answer all your real estate questions and give you some teaching too, the best dang stuff on the planet, for $7 a month. If you can beat that anywhere, let me know, because I'm going to join that group. Guys, today we're talking about creating six-figure incomes in real estate investing. Our guest today is Dustin Heiner. Dustin is the founder of Master Passive Income Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, which is coming up in May, and you guys want to check that out. And also Successfully Unemployed, which I think all of us want to be. Now, Dustin is a real estate investor who was able to make enough passive income from his business to quit his job when he was 37 years old. That's pretty amazing. So we want to welcome Dustin. Hey, Dustin, welcome to the Sub2Deals Show.
Hey, William, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm an investor. I love real estate investing, and it's mostly of what it can afford me to do in my life. Like literally not work that W-2, that dead-end job, that just over broke job. I like calling it becoming successful unemployed. And with that, be able to just go to the gym and hang out with my family and come on podcasts and talk to great people like you, William. So thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well, man, we're excited about having you here today. You're involved in so much stuff. I'll tell you, I was doing a little bit of research before we got on here, man. And you know, between Successfully Unemployed, Master Passive Income, and everything else, you're all over the place. And I know you, gosh, retire at 37. I was just finding real estate at 37. So that's amazing. So tell everybody about yourself. How'd you get started in the real estate investing business?
Yeah, totally. So obviously jumping to the end, which you said, I quit my job, or I became successful unemployed at 37 years old, but I didn't start that way. In fact, all the businesses I have now, meaning from online businesses to the conferences to real estate investing, all this stuff is because I don't have a job. If you don't have a job, you have 40 plus hours of your life back to develop to yourself. But I didn't start that way. So I'll quickly go back to the beginning. So all my life, I've been entrepreneurial, but I've been also taught, just like we're all taught the exact same plan, quote unquote plan we're all told to go on. So you go to school, you get good grades. Then you take those good grades, you go to college or university, and then you get more good grades, but you get in thousands and thousands of dollars into debt. And then you get a piece of paper. It's called a degree. And then you go around to different companies and you shop around and try to get a job there, and then quote unquote have a career. And with that, work 40, 50 plus years of your life, and then retire when you're 65, 70 years old, and hopefully live on what you managed to save that entire time. Well, I was doing that exact same thing. In fact, I got the most stable, secure job I could ever think of. I was in California at the time, and I started working in a local county government and doing technology. So California is definitely not going anywhere. Government will never go anywhere. And you also have IT. It's not going anywhere. So I'm working that job, 9 to 5 technology job. And at the same time, started building businesses. And I created actually, when I was young, a lot of people won't know what this is, but I had a newspaper route. You ride around with your bike and with bags of newspapers and throw them at 5 a.m., banging them on garage doors, waking people up. I had a graphic website design company. I had started actually a skateboard manufacturing business, a convenience store, and a pizzeria. Like, these are businesses I started from the ground up, but they weren't enough to where I could quit my job. So I was still working that dead end job, that just over broke job. Then I bought one rental property at the time. Now, I bought the rental properties in 2006 when I first started investing. And I remember it as plain as day. The check that I got from my property manager, it was $317. I said, my goodness, I didn't do anything. My property did everything for me. And I made that money in passive income. And I thought, I need to be an investor. Like, I need to do everything I can to be an investor. But William, how it always happens, life gets in the way. Right. My wife and I started having children. And after 1, 2, 3, and 4 children, I eventually, with working that dead end 9 to 5, I got caught up in life. And here's what really shoved me or catapulted me to become a real estate investor. So when my wife had our 4th child, she had the baby. I went on paternity leave. That's where the dad stays home with the mom, changes poopy diapers and all the good stuff, and bonds with the baby. So I'm at home for a couple weeks, and then I go back to work. And in that same week that I go back to work, on a Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon, I get a call from my boss's secretary, like the top dog. And she says, Dustin, would you please come to the office? And I said, sure. And I hung up the phone, and I thought, why in the world did they call me in the office? Like, this isn't normal. And I've seen plenty of movies. Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon is not a good time to be called to the main boss's office. And I started thinking, a couple months before I went on paternity leave, there was some rumors or some rumbling going on that there could potentially be layoffs in the county. And I immediately shook it off. I said, there's no way. I have 12, 13 years seniority here. My bosses think I do a great job. We're good. I'm totally fine. So I get up and I walk down the hallway to my boss's office. Now, this hallway isn't very long. In fact, it's kind of short. But every single step that I take, it feels like the hallway gets longer and longer and longer. And it feels like my feet become lead bricks because the weight is dawning on me that I could potentially lose my job. Well, I get down the hallway and I turn the corner. And I see my boss's door. His door is closed. And I see a secretary there. Super sweet, nice old lady. She says, Dustin, would you please have a seat? And she's trying to, sheepishly grinning at me, trying to console me with her eyes because she knows everything about what's going on. I know nothing about what's going on. So I go and I take my seat. And as I'm sitting there, I start thinking about my life. If I get laid off, if I lose my job right now, did I just waste my entire life going down this path that other people told me to do? And then I thought, oh my goodness, if I don't have a job, I'm not going to be able to feed my family. We just had our 4th child. Well, as I'm sitting there, my hands get all clammy, my forehead gets all sweaty because it's weighing on me that I'm probably going to lose my job. Well, the door to my boss's office opens up, and out walks a lady coworker of mine, and she's noticeably distraught, noticeably upset. She's not necessarily crying, but you can tell her world has been rocked, and she has a piece of paper in her hands, and she walks by me. And my boss says, Dustin, would you please come to the office? So I get up and I walk into his office and I get laid off. And remember, this is the government. Nobody gets fired or laid off the government, but I did. This is the reason why I tell the story. So hopefully you learn from my mistake. Well, I take that layoff notice and I go back to my desk and I realize 2 things sitting right then and there. First one, I need to get another job. I need to be able to provide for my family. So I was really, really blessed, praise the Lord, to find another job in the same county. Whole another department wasn't having the same issues. Right. With that, I got a job, check, started going to work. The second thing, sitting in the chair, and this is the reason why I tell the story. Hopefully you guys all grab this. I realized that I need to make sure that this never, ever happens to me again. I need to make sure that nobody has the ability to take away my ability to feed my family. So right then and there, I realized whenever anybody would ask me the question, Dustin, what do you do? We all get that question. Well, I would reply, just like most of us reply with our job. Well, I work for the county doing technology for the county. Well, I'm basically projecting the value that I put on myself as coming from my job. No, my value doesn't come from my job. My value comes from my God and from myself and from my family. So right then and there, I realized no longer will my value be in my job. I started telling everybody that I am an investor because I knew I needed to be an investor. but life got in the way. Now, what I started to do was started telling everybody that I'm an investor, which what happened was it realized in my mind that I am now an investor. Now, it may so happen that 100% of my money comes from my job. That's now my part-time job. I'm a full-time investor. So quickly, fast forward the story. I started buying property after property after property, each one making me a minimum of $250 or more in passive income from every single property. Eventually, I had 30 plus properties, and I realized, my goodness, even though I'm making $75,000 a year here, I'm losing money working here. So last part of the story, I went to my new boss, great boss and all. And I said, hey, boss, here's your 2 weeks notice. Like, I'm laying you off, jokingly. And we laughed. And he says, Dustin, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't have to do anything. I own real estate. It makes money for me without even working. And the last part of the story, so if you remember that short hallway, they got longer and longer and longer. Well, I walked to and from my job every single day, 1.5 miles each way. And I've done it 1,000 times. Well, this last time walking away from my job for the last time, I felt like I was walking on clouds because I knew I would never, ever need a job again. And everybody listen to this. You need to realize that you will never be paid what you're worth. In fact, your boss will never pay you what you're worth. And this is how you'll know this. Your boss is paying you just enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much money that takes money out of their pocket. If you got paid what you're worth, they'd probably go broke. Instead of doing that, figuring out a way to make sure that you are getting paid for your value, nobody's going to value you as much as you do. As soon as you find out how you can do that, you will be able to, literally the opportunities are endless. Once you quit your job, you have 40 plus hours of your life back to do so much more good for this world, but good for yourself as well. So I'll pause the story because you probably got plenty of questions there, William.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and that's such a powerful story, but you're absolutely right. We spend so much of our time making a living that we can't really make a life. That's really what we do. And that's what drove me. I mean, I just happened to see a Carlton Sheets infomercial at 2 a.m. Same thing. But I was miserable with my job. I worked 70 hours a week. I never saw my family. It was just work all the time. But I saw something today, and it said, if you're the average person in an average job and you're working 8 hours a day, you sleep 8 hours, you work 8 hours, okay, you've got 8 more hours to change something. And you just got to, it's all intentional. It's got to be intentional, just like your story. Life just happened and you put it on the back burner. You have to be very intentional about making this change. And if you're not, life's just going to happen.
And people are going to say, man, well, if I have extra time, maybe I have my kids, maybe I have something in your life. Well, I like what Arnold Schwarzenegger said. So Arnold Schwarzenegger said when he would go to, work and then work out like 6 hours a day, and he eventually became an actor and all that sort of stuff. He said, hey, well, if you're worried about sleeping, just sleep faster. And I was like, wow, I need to sleep faster. And you're 100% right. And so my day would literally, because I knew there was a light in the tunnel, and it was delayed gratification, meaning if I just keep working hard towards the goal of buying enough properties to have enough income coming in, 30 properties. Well, actually, we'll say this: one property at $250 a month in passive income, because remember, rents and expenses, that difference is your passive income. Right. One property at $250 a month, that's $3,000 a year. 10 properties at $250 a month, that's $2,500 a month, $30,000 a year. 20 properties is $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year. I realized all I had to do was scale my business enough to where I had enough properties to be able to afford all my expenses and be able to provide for our family. And so when you realize that there's so much more out there than just working that W-2, that dead-end job. Once you have 40 plus hours of your life back to devote to what you want to do, my goodness, I literally now, my favorite thing to do is build new businesses. Right. I love building businesses. I literally have 4 businesses right now that make me money. And they all, one last thing quickly I'll say is, I love streams of income. I have lots of streams of income. We talk about that a lot. In general, like in the world, you'll hear people talk about streams of income, but all of my streams of income flow into my river of income, which is my real estate investing. It all goes back to my real estate investing, because that makes me more money, but it also creates generational wealth that I will literally give these properties to my children.
Right. I tell people that all the time. It's exactly how I got started when I bought my first couple of houses, and I realized, hey, this thing may actually work. And I really started focusing on it. And I said, okay, if my average cash flow is $250 a month, how many houses do I need to replace my job income? It's simple math. And my number was 24. I needed 24 houses. So I said, okay, I can buy 2 houses a month and leave my job in 12 months. And that's exactly what I did. Because when you leave that job, man, your business goes through the roof because that's all you do now. You don't have to devote that 40 hours, just like you said, for sure. So, well, tell us, Dustin, do you talk about creating passive income, but a lot of us have a niche that we follow. We like to do certain things. Do you do that, or are you a transaction engineer and you just make things fit into a box where they go?
Yeah, actually, I love that question because the way that I approach my investing is I have my bread and butter. I know what I'm good at, which is residential, 4 units and below, making sure we're making passive income monthly, recurring income that will literally go forever until I sell the property, which will be never because I'll give it to my kids. But that's my bread and butter. With that, though, I love all types of investing: storage units, Airbnb, multifamily syndications. I love all types of investing, but my bread and butter definitely is the 4 units and below. And in fact, like I've done it so many times or coached it so many times that it's literally no brainer. Just like with you, William, like you've done it so many times. It's just like, you just ask me a question, I'll literally tell you exactly right way to do it. With that, I even dream, oh, like I just bought a deal. Oh, I woke up. Oh, I didn't. Okay, I got to go buy a deal. So it's really just, it's something as being an investor, and something like with you and I, William, when you start to also help people and coach people, it's also that I find that those quote unquote gurus who then just all they do is teach, it's really sad because they're not actively doing it. We're investors. That's literally what I am. I'm an investor. And it just so happens, just like you, I have so many people asking me how to do it. I'm like, well, let me just go ahead and start teaching. And it's just part of it, but it's just an outlet of my free time. I have so much extra time. And again, I think you and I are very, very similar. I just enjoy too. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy sharing this with people because when my students quit their job in 2 or 3 years. In fact, I have a number of students that literally quit their job right around now, 2 or 3 years of working with me. It took me about 7 to 8 years. It feels like I'm quitting my job all over again. Like I'm so excited. Like, yeah, this is so exciting. And so when you're able to have a river of income that then gives you time back in your life to then devote to building other businesses, it just unlocks so much for you in your future.
Yeah, for sure. I told somebody, my course was an accident. I just had so many people emailing me and everything saying, how do you do this? How do you do that? And somebody said, you just need to write a course. And that's what got me started in teaching. I never had any idea that I could do that. But yeah, and you're right. There's nothing like getting an email or a phone call or a Facebook Messenger that says, man, you changed my life. I can do this and do that with my family now that I couldn't do before. That's the
absolutely. That's very similar with me. Like when I was quitting my job, working for the government, they can't really fire you if you're having fun and saying, yeah, I'm going to quit in like 6 months. Cause that's what I was doing. Cause I just was on track to eventually quit my job. And then I literally had coworkers ask me, well, can you teach me how to invest in real estate? So I would do it. Just sure. Friends from church and family members, like I'd literally coach them how to do it. And I realized I enjoyed it. And it was a lot of fun. And then seeing them have success. Now, I quickly need to also share how I actually started investing. And I followed those quote unquote gurus, the ones that probably don't still invest, but they just more make money off of coaching. But not saying that's a bad business model. It's just, I followed what they told me. In fact, I watched those same type of infomercial. It wasn't Carlton's Cheats. It was somebody else. It was 2 a.m. infomercial. They said, hey, we're coming to your town, a free 2-hour seminar, teach you about real estate. I'm like, excited. Yes, let's do it. I don't know anything about it. So I go and it's all a sales pitch. And then they say, run to the back and go give us thousands of extra dollars for this next 2-day seminar. Well, I did that. I ran to the back, went to this 2-day seminar. And then that was sad. It was another sales pitch for another $40,000 or $50,000 or $60,000 course. So here's what they taught me. And this is the reason why I love jumping on podcasts too, is sharing the right way, at least the way that I found that has been duplicatable. It's a system. They just literally implement it in. So the wrong way, and I'll tell it really quickly, and it'll ring your bell, William, when I tell you, but everybody hear it and then forget it, because I'll tell you the right way of how we do it. So they say, this is what the guru has said, you find a property anywhere in the country, and then you run the numbers. That means you make sure your expenses are less than your income from your rents. And they say, make sure you're making $25 or $50 a month, but you're going to bank on your appreciation. Remember, this is 2006. And you're going to bank on appreciation. That's what you're going to invest for. Well, I'll pause this and say, I don't care about appreciation. It's nice, but I'm literally going to give these properties to my kids. Only thing I do is maybe refinance and pull the cash out and buy more properties. But I'll get back to the wrong way. So they run the numbers, make sure you're making money and appreciation. With that, they say, now spend thousands of dollars to buy the property, then spend thousands of dollars to fix up the property, then find a tenant, and then find a property manager to manage the property. Well, in my opinion, that's just about backwards. In fact, I did that, and within 6 months, my property manager started stealing from me. Now, that's the wrong way. Quickly forget that. Let me quickly give you the right way. The right way, and this is what I learned after my property manager started stealing from me. If as soon as that happened, I thought, okay, I could just give up and say, woe is me, this doesn't work. But it's worked for thousands of people before. You're like for the longest time, people do it. I just need to figure it out. But remember, I've always been entrepreneurial. I started businesses. So I said, let me approach this from a business mindset. If I'm going to build a business, I'm not going to build a business that doesn't make me money, enough money every single month, at least to cover my expenses, let alone make me money. With that, I went the route of building the business. So let me give your audience an example of what building the business looks like. So if you're going to start a convenience store, convenience store, candy bars and soda machines and all that good stuff. Well, you're not going to sign a lease on a location and open the doors and set a box of candy bars on the ground. No, you wouldn't do that. You go out of business in 2 seconds. What you would do, though, is you would build the business first. So you get the gondolas. Those are the shelving units. So the candy bars go on the countertops, the cold storage, bank accounts, cash registers, insurance, employees, everything in the business before you buy any inventory. Same thing with real estate investing. We build the entire business. We get everybody in the business ready to work for us. And then we buy a piece of property, and that property is our inventory. The gurus will tell you, you buy a property, that property is your business. No. My business owns inventory. That's how I was able to scale my business so fast. All I did was I built the business, and then all I needed to do was find the next piece of inventory, buy it, and put it into my business. When I did that, that's when the floodgates opened of possibilities and scalability because I kept buying more properties. And with that, I realized that as you build a business, you're actively hiring the experts to tell you if you're doing something wrong or not. Last quickly, I'll share that. Usually I'll get somebody say, hey, Dustin, either get on a call or something, say, Dustin, I bought this house. I followed what the gurus said. And then I went to try to find a property manager. And all of them would say they would not manage the property because they get shot there. Well, like, yes, you no longer have an asset. You have a liability now because you didn't do it the right way. How much better, instead of saying this, hey, property manager, I just bought this property. Would you manage it? And they say no. How much better would it be if you said, hey, property manager, I'm looking to buy this property. How much would I rent it for? What type of clientele would I have? What's the vacancy factor? And will you manage it? If they say, no, I'm not going to manage it. Well, good. You didn't waste the money and time. Move on to the next property. If they say, yes, this is how much you'll rent it for. This is the type of clientele, all that sort of stuff. Then you have expert information. Like Zillow's not expert. Redfin, Trulia, they're not experts. Who are the experts? Those people living there on the ground. So we build the entire business first and then rely on the experts to give us the accurate information and then move forward from there. Does that all make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. You got to rely on those people to do that stuff. You can't do everything. I mean, a lot of us tried at first.
I don't want to manage properties.
But you're definitely going to be limited in what you can do if you try to do everything. I've been a one-man show, and it's a lot easier to have people to do things for you, for sure. As I get older, I find that to be very true.
I'm happy to pay people to do work for me. In fact, let me say this a different way, and you'll absolutely appreciate this, William. So I don't pay my property managers. I don't pay my taxes. I don't pay my insurance. I don't pay my mortgage. I don't pay for repairs. I don't pay any of that stuff. My tenants pay for all of that. In fact, I do not buy a property unless all those are accounted for. Like some people ask me, well, Dustin, how do you afford a property manager? I said, I don't. Well, I don't go out and get a job to pay for a property manager. I don't buy a property unless that is accounted for in the expenses. And I make $250 or more in passive income from each property. And when you build the business, you're going to be able to make money every single month. And here's a quick example. Let's say that, convenience store analogy. Let's say you're going to buy a candy bar. Without a shadow of a doubt, you can sell it for $1 all day, every day.
Right.
Well, let's say it costs you 50 cents to buy the candy bar. Well, you'd make 50 cents. You buy it for 50 cents, sell it for $1, you make 50 cents. But what if, here's a great thing about real estate. What if you don't have the 50 cents, but it costs you 25 cents to borrow that 50 cents? Well, you're out of pocket a total of 75 cents and you sell it for $1. You still make $25 cents out of that dollar every single time you sell that property. You'd be thinking, my goodness, how can I get more money to buy these properties or this candy bar? But here's the thing. You would not buy it for $1.25 if you could only sell it for $1. You'd lose 25 cents every single month. Why would you do that when you can do it right and buy it for less than the worst so you can make money every single month? That's what we do is we build the business so we know without a shadow of a doubt we're going to be making money every single month.
It's certainty, Dustin. That's what I tell my students. Certainty. They say, what about this deal? Listen, you want certainty. That's the most important component of any deal. For me, I know I'm going to know that I'll make money each and every month, or I'm not interested. It's like a phrase we used to have. I was in the restaurant business for 20 years before I got into this. And, in the kitchen, if you pull something out of the refrigerator, to serve a customer, you look at it. If there is a question, there is no question. Okay. And I use that in real estate too. I believe it. So absolutely. So listen, you say you're sort of a transaction engineer. You buy properties a lot of ways. How do you acquire most of yours? Now my students, most of them are Sub2 people. And me, I couldn't tell you. I told a guy the other day, we had a banker call us off of one of our bandit signs. And he said, come on down here, man. We got some programs for you. I said, fella, I couldn't tell you the last time I borrowed money from a bank. But so we like Sub2s, but we'll do other things that make sense. But what about you? What's your major way that you finance most of your property?
So yes to Sub2s and so many more. So when you're thinking about getting financing for a property or being able to afford or pay, not afford, but pay for a property, Sub2 is brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. I will add that it is one tool that should be in your toolbox or tool belt as an investor. So I've used so many ways to get financing for properties. And remember, it's a business. As long as you're making money every single month, your business, that you have experts running it for you. It doesn't matter how you get the property. Subject to, if you get a loan, financing, whatever it might be, you're going to get all of the above. Like you're going to be successful because you're making money. So I've done, obviously paid all cash, done that before, refinanced, pull the cash back out. I've used signature loans. That's where you literally go to a bank and say, hey, can I just borrow money if I sign my signature? It's an unsecured line of credit. Yes, I've done that. Private money, even use commercial loans. I love commercial loans, portfolio loans, bundled properties together to get more loans. Here's an advanced strategy. I've even used credit cards to buy properties. And here's the big thing. And I'm just scratching the surface. There's so many other ways to get financing that I literally counted. I think one time it was like 15 different ways that I personally used to buy properties, different tools. And here's the great thing. All these different tools, let's say 15 different ways to get financing for it. It's all a tool to get creative in what you need in order to take down the deal. Every deal is going to be different. Now, some deals might be fantastic, but it's not, they don't want subject to. Maybe it's something else. Well, we're investors. And what I love to tell all my students and anybody listening to me, investors, entrepreneurs, we're problem solvers. Whatever problems in our way, we figure out the answer to that problem. It just helps that we have more tools in our tool belt so that we can actually take that out to then put it into a deal. Let's say, for instance, you have one deal that you need the down payment. You also need financing. You need a short-term loan. You also need repairs. Well, why not use 4 different financing options of the ones that I just gave you and put them all together, which we do that all the time. I like to call it creative financing, but yes to all the above. And what I love to find is creative ways to help sellers get what they want. That's the biggest thing. Like I think in real estate, as well as even in business, like real estate's not about properties and business is not about a product. Real estate is about people. Business is about people. Always it's going to be about people. If you give the people what they want, you're going to get what you want. So let's say you have a seller. They really need to get out of the house and they really need cash up front. Well, we figure out a way to get that cash up front, and then we make the payments lower, whatever it might be. But we get creative. We get them what they want. And as long as we get what we want, which is our passive income every single month, we capture equity when we buy it. We can have forced appreciation where we fix it up and make it worth more, all the above, and then some. If we can do that, get them what they want. Remember, this is a people business. We want to help the people. And if subject to is the best way to do it, then absolutely want to do it. But don't get me wrong. I love subject to. I'd love to have as little or no money out of my pocket as possible.
Right. For sure. And it's whatever makes sense. That's our first choice on most of our deals, is try to get some seller assistance. But sometimes only cash will work. That's for sure. So you buy, as I understand, you buy all over the country. You're not just a local investor.
Correct.
You buy everywhere. Most of our exit strategy, well, pretty much all of it, is seller financing. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, and I know you're not going to go along with this at all, but because you have a different pathway than I do, but I don't like being a landlord. I don't want people, I just don't want to deal with it, and that's okay. So seller financing gives me cash up front, cash every month, cash on the back end. So it works real well for me. But you use property management companies, I understand. So that's how you control everything all over the country. So my question is, how do you use property management companies well? Because most investors I know don't. They fail miserably with that. How do you make good choices and manage these managers?
And I love that you asked that question, because most people, obviously you're an investor, so you would ask this question, but most people, their first question is, how do we finance it and how do we buy it? Those are the easy questions. But the harder questions, ones that need to be answered first, is how am I going to make monthly revenue on this every single month, and then not touch the property, not talk to the tenants, not do anything. In fact, out of the 30 plus properties that I own, I literally, well, I'll say it this way. A lot of people have heard of the book, The 4-Hour Work Week. And the premise of the book is try to make your life to where you only work 4 hours a week. Well, I think working 4 hours a week is for suckers. I don't want to work 4 hours a week. I don't want to work 4 hours a month. I maybe work 30 minutes a month on all my properties by getting my property management statements, make sure they look good, and then go back to setting aside and go back to play with my kids. So here's what we do. And because this is the reason why it's a brilliant question. When we build the business, we first find a good city anywhere in the country. In fact, we invest all over the country. The Midwest is terrific right now, down in the Carolinas and Florida, really, really great area. And so we build the business, and then we find the city that has good inventory, the type of homes that people either want to rent or buy. So 3-bedroom, here's what I like, cookie cutter type homes, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200, maybe 1,700 square feet, not too small that families don't want to live there, not too big that has extra walls to paint and floors and all that sort of stuff. But I find cookie cutter type homes. With that, I then find that city that has good inventory, that has a lot of properties that I can buy. From that, I pause looking at inventory. Most people, they'll keep going. And then, in fact, my students will say, hey, Dustin, I found a new city. This looks great. I already have 5 realtors sending me deals. I'm like, stop. No. You're putting the cart before the horse, because if you got a property, who's going to manage it for you? We don't want to manage them, right? No, I hate talking to tenants. I don't want to do that. So what we do, though, is we don't, in fact, realtors are literally last in the list, like finding the property. But what's next after finding the good cities, good inventory? Finding the right property manager. Remember, I did it wrong. I just grabbed somebody. Hey, you got a pulse? Come on in and manage my property. And he started stealing from me within 6 months. Just like if you started that convenience store, got everything set up, and you see somebody walking across the street, say, hey, do you want to manage something? Come on in here. You got a pulse. And manage my inventory, manage my money, manage my customers, you wouldn't do that. You would interview, and then you would hire them slowly, and then honestly fire fast. If they're messing up, you fire them quick. So here's my suggestion. And this is how I make it so my business is automatic. Like all my students, we don't mess with landlord tenant conversations. Like we don't do any of that stuff. What we do is we build a business, find the right property manager, we hire, and this is when we hire, very, very key. We interview multiple property managers multiple times. We don't just do one interview and say, oh, you're good, or we'll call them up one time. And here's the key. Texting is not interviewing. Emailing is not interviewing. You need to call them on the phone, and you need to talk to them, and multiple times in a row. So I even give a list to my students of 22 questions and answers that you should get from your property managers to find the right ones, so that as they're going through them, these multiple interviews, they're going to weed out the bad ones, and then keep the good ones. This is how we find the right manager. Now, here's the key. Outside of that, the next step, let's say we find a great property manager. Well, then we give them the systems and procedures and processes that we want in our business. Now, I tell them, I don't care how you run any other landlord's business. However, let's say they don't want you to collect until the 15th. I don't care. You run my business X, Y, and Z. I'll give you a quick example. Rent is due on the 1st. It's late after the 3rd. On the 4th, we put a 3-day notice. As soon as that 3-day notice is up, we start the eviction process like clockwork. We're non-discriminatory. Everybody gets kicked out the exact same time frame. And so treat everybody the same because we give them the processes and procedures. They don't need to call me anymore because I've already itemized out. If this happens, this happens. If this much money is, this quote is this much money, then you get multiple quotes. All this sort of stuff so that they run the business. And I kid you not, it's really an automatic business. I literally traveled in 2017, went through Japan, 6-week trip with my family, 2,000 miles driving around Japan on the left-hand side of the road. In 2018, we went on a 6-week trip in Europe, 11 different countries, a big field trip. 2019, we went the East Coast, went from Florida all the way up to New York on a 4-week trip. All the time, literally did not talk to any of my property managers, did not even think about my properties, made money every single minute because my properties work for me and I give my business the systems and procedures and processes in order to run for me. Does that all make sense?
No, absolutely. That makes sense. That's what we want is freedom. It's, when I first got started, I thought it was money, but after you get money, you realize it's not about the money. It's doing what you want when you want. And I like to travel, so I want to go. And I can't have people calling me all the time when I'm on the road.
Not at all.
I'm somewhere. I'm at the top of Diamond Head in Hawaii, and a tenant wants to call you because something's not working. Forget that, man. That's why I went to seller financing, because I'm not as good as picking property managers as you are, but that makes a lot of sense, and that's something I've never thought of. You give them your SOPs. You don't use theirs. You tell them how you want your properties run. So that's a really good tip today. So, what about scaling, Dustin? Now, if I'm getting started, I'm new, I want to reach that point where I don't have to have a job anymore, so I've got to have 32 houses. How do we grow this thing? How do we buy more properties? And what's the best way to grow faster?
Think of it like this. If you're going to start a convenience store, you might buy one candy bar and put it in there, but that's just one candy bar. There's only a certain type of clientele that's going to buy it. Instead, why not get 100 candy bars, put them in there? You might only eat personally one, but you're not the clientele. You're not the customer. Your customers are the ones that are going to come in and buy the inventory that you're putting out there for them to buy. So for us in scaling the business, the reason why we go out of state, we go in areas, multiple areas. In fact, I have 5 different cities myself that I'm investing in. And each area is totally different. And with that, I spread out to where I have lots of inventory over lots of places. But with that, the reason why I'm able to scale is because, and here's the biggest key, I built the business first so that all I need to do is get the financing or do another subject to deal or something like that to put that property into my business and then let the business run itself. Now, when you're talking about scaling, most people get to thinking scaling money. How do I get enough money to buy the property? Obviously, William, you got the subject to down. That's definitely how you scale. But from point forward of acquiring the asset, how do we then make sure that we have multiple people running our business so we don't have to take those calls? That's a big thing when you think about scaling is how do we continually scale, not just with more properties, but over the years. I don't want to talk to my property managers for months at a time or years at a time. I don't want to talk to them. Just send me the money. That's all I care about. So with that, what we do is in scaling, we build the business first so that we then have the ability to put the properties into our business. Now, let's say, as you're building your business, and this is what I always suggest my students, we get a list of, let's say, 5 or 6 different property managers, rank them in order, top to bottom, meaning ones we like down to ones that are kind of not as good. But we have our top property manager. Well, we're going to go with them. Let's say they are getting too much capacity, or God forbid they die and you have to move on. Well, you've already done all the homework for the second property manager. You can then hire them to take over your properties. But with that, let's say your property manager is getting a little overwhelmed. you already have a second property manager. You've already done all the work. You then can move forward to moving into scaling into that next property manager. Same thing. If you're going to build another area, a brand new city to start investing, we build the entire business up there. Because you, William, with Subject2, you already have that down. We could do that all day, every day. But the key now is to managing it perpetually. Right. So we create generational wealth and we can make money without working. What we do is we build the business and create all the systems in the business so that we can then it's just plug and play, buy another piece of inventory and put it into our property in a business.
Exactly. Great tips. Well, listen, Dustin, I know you're having a conference. We talked about this before we came on today, and I love what you said about it. All of us have been to 1,000 conferences where the goal is to drive you to the back of the room and get you to get out your credit card. But your conference is different. Why don't you tell everybody about that and how they can learn more about it and attend?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had thousands of students now, just like you, William, and just love giving and just love helping. And my students said, hey, we want to meet up. We want to get together just to become friends in person. I said, that's a great idea. So I created a conference and I invited my other friends that have their own audiences, their own coaching, everything from like land investing to storage units, multifamily, Airbnb, all that sort of stuff. And we all brought all of our audiences together to make one big community. And the goal is exactly like you said. You won't see that booth in the back where you say, run to the back and go give us money. You won't see that. But what you will see is community. What you will see is people connecting together. You'll see people going out to lunch together, dinner together, hang out together, passing along deals or partnering together, developing capital relationships. Everything is about community, because when I first got started, just like you, William, it was like, I don't know about you, but it felt like I was all alone. There was especially nobody in my immediate realm of influence. They didn't have any clue. So I created something that I wanted, and I still want, because I definitely give value. It's called the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, REWBCON for short, REWBCON.com, REWBCON for short. If you use the promo code podcast, just like it sounds, I'll know that you came from William. Use a promo code podcast. I'll give you 10% off the ticket. But all it is a way for us to come together as a community. I have 40 plus speakers now, and William and I are talking about potentially having him come out and share as well. But we have 40 plus speakers that are there bringing their audiences, but they're experts. They're going to teach you their style of investing. And then you're going to learn of all these other types of investing that are just like, wow. I realized, oh man, I want to get in storage units from my last conference. Like, okay, let me start doing that. It's a way for all of us to help each other out, because honestly, investing gets better when we help each other out and we gather together. So yeah, the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, use the promo code podcast. I'd love to see you there. In fact, what's great about the conference, usually you'll find if you go to a conference, the speakers, they'll fly in, do their session, and then fly right back out. Like they won't stay for the entire conference. No, these are my friends. Like you're basically being invited to hang out with my friends. They literally gonna be there all 3 days, building the community as well, because they're a part of the community as well. So Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, definitely use a promo code podcast to get 10% off of that. Right.
That's great, man. It sounds like a great event. And listen, they can check you out at your website. Tell everybody about that.
Yeah, actually, I have a free course. You mind if I share that out with everybody?
Oh, absolutely. We've got that right here.
Yeah. So the masterpassiveincome.com/free course. You could even text the word rental, because you're probably listening to a podcast on your phone. If you text the word rental, RENTAL, to 33777, rental to 33777, I'll literally give you my course outlining everything and giving you detailed information on how to do every single step, find an area of the country to invest, how to scale the business, to build the business to be even bigger, and to be able to quit your job. You can even find me at masterpassiveincome.com/free course. I'll give that to you as well. I have my own podcast, the Master Passive Income Podcast. It's usually just a solo show, but man, I just love giving all this stuff out, as well as the YouTube channel, masterpassiveincome.com. Oh, one last thing. I actually like Instagram, kind of funny enough, but I like Instagram. My handle is the Dustin Heiner, THE Dustin Heiner. And I'm not that arrogant. It's the only handle I could come up with, but THE Dustin Heiner. I love getting DMs and trying to, just really helping people out. But it's been great to talk to you and hopefully encourage your audience that we can create generational wealth if we focus on building a business that runs itself, that makes money for us every single month. And Subject2 deals are brilliant ways to get us those properties, but then we have to make sure they run for us for the rest of our lives.
Great. That's great information, Dustin. I tell you, I appreciate you taking the time to be on with us today. And hopefully people will check you out at your conference out there. It's going to be May 4th and 5th, I think, in Arizona.
4th through the 6th. It'll be a 3-day conference. It's packed. Like I said, we have 40 plus speakers now, and it's going to be tremendous. All about content, all about giving, and all about helping you become a better investor.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Thank you, William.
All right. Okay, guys, that is it for this episode of the Sub2Deals Show. We appreciate you showing up and listening or watching on YouTube at sub2tv.com. If you listen to us on Apple Podcast, we would love a 5-star rating and review. It helps other people find the podcast, and we just like it. We appreciate you for doing it. So until next time, get out there, talk to some sellers, and buy some houses.